Hi, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Conscious Grief series. I am really excited to be joined by Danielle McCleerey today. Welcome, Danielle.
Thank you. Hi.
And Danielle is a wealth, energetics, and quantum business coach and the host of On the Daily podcast. So it's great to have Danielle speaking, who's not directly associated as a grief expert or person, but as most people, you have got direct experience of grief.
Mhm.
And that's more what we're going to focus on today. So, your dear dad, Dan, passed away
Mhm.
2 years ago. And
Good.
it's kind of been a sort of paradoxical time in a way for you because it's like been a really obviously hard time, but at the same time, there's been a lot of positive change, right, in the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's been a really paradoxical is such a good way to put that. I think when your person dies, like my dad, I mean, to anybody watching this, hello, by the way. Um my dad and I were like best friends. Like I was so similar to him. I had his work ethic, I had his face, like I had his sense of humor. I mean, the way that I approach life very similar to my dad's. And so when you lose someone like that, you're kind of all of your blind spots and all of your uh, limiting beliefs and all of your shadow really comes to the surface really quickly, I think. And that is for sure true for me. When he died, I was very much like, I am going to just keep doing what I do. Like, I know how to get through this. I've done personal development work. This is what I do for a living. Like, I'm going to be fine. And I'm very connected, like, spiritually. I very much, like, I'm clairaudient. And so, like, I hear a lot of spiritual energy. And, I have experience with Reiki and I have experience with all these different things. So, in my mind, I was like prepared for this. I wasn't at all prepared for it. And yeah, I would say the last 2 years has been a beautiful and painful and epic lesson in how do you move through something knowing that there's nothing really to like nothing, they're still dead at the end of it. And how can you reframe things so that they actually become lessons that clearly, like, you were like, I was here to learn this lesson even though it hurts. So it has been a really paradoxical time for sure.
So when you say that you had a lot of tools in your toolbox, say, and what were the things then that sort of surprised you about your grief that you felt like you were not prepared for?
Well, I mean, when he died, I was like, I kept moving at the same speed
Mm.
that I had always moved. And I grew up the girl, like I was always praised for being busy. Like that was just, wow, you do so much. Like, how do you do as much as you do? How do you do all these things? Like, wow, Danielle, like, if there's something to be done, Danielle will do it. And I had very much like I mean, I had really attached my identity to it. Is really like that was who I was. And so when my dad died, I took like a week to just lay down and cry and do the things. And then I went back to work. And then I went back to life and I just kept moving. And I was convinced that that was the way to do it. Like, you just keep moving, you just keep moving. And that worked. It worked for a year. And it wasn't until we came up on the year of him passing. He died on January 16th. And it wasn't until about January 1st that I just hit an energetic, spiritual, metaphysical, like absolutely physical wall. And I wasn't prepared for that at all. I wasn't prepared for just the immense realization that like I hadn't grieved.
Mm.
I hadn't actually felt my feelings. I did what I always did and just kept moving,
Mm.
which only works until it doesn't.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I really identify and relate very much to what you're sharing, because as you say, we get a lot of praise and validation for being busy, and that's our kind of go-to distraction, and it can be very difficult for us to take time out unless, like you say, you hit a wall and there's no option. So when you hit that wall, how did you take care of yourself in that time?
I mean, it was such a blur. Like I just remember nothing I was doing felt aligned anymore. The way that I was working didn't feel aligned anymore. Some of the relationships I had with like coworkers, friends, whoever wasn't working anymore. Um, I even like down to like I didn't want to wear anything in my closet. Like I kept Free People in business while the pandemic was happening. Like I bought every cozy set they had and they had a lot of them. And all of a sudden I didn't want to wear any of them. Like I really just it was a full and complete meltdown. And it was a breaking point for sure. And you know, in that time too, transitioning like I was transitioning out of like I had been with Soul Cycle, like an indoor cycling company. I'd been teaching spin for the last like 10 years and I quit in that time. I decided, you know, I'd been doing a business for a couple years and really just like grinding and decided I no longer wanted to work like that anymore. I started a new business at that time. I There was just a lot happening that was very chaotic and very explosive in my life. And ultimately, like what I did to take care of myself was like I got a coach and I dove deeper into like shadow work because I was realizing like maybe 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 there's a pattern here that I am finally very painstakingly aware of. And I did. I found out a lot of things about myself. I found out a lot of uh, beliefs I had around money, around my worth, around, you know, how successful I was allowed to become. I realized a lot during that time. And it was just a real, like, for probably a few months, it was just a lot of deep, deep work, deep reflection. I asked myself a lot of questions. I got to know myself on like such a deeper level. And it's really interesting because a lot of people were like, well, I don't understand. Like, what does that have to do with like grieving your dad? And at the time, I didn't know how to answer it. I was like, I don't even know. Like, this is just who I am. And I probably wouldn't have said that it had to do with grief. It's all in retrospect, right? Like now I can look back at it and I go, no, like that was grieving. That was grieving a lot of things. And there were a lot of things about my relationship with my dad that my dad needed. Like it's crazy to hear these words come out of my mouth now, but my dad had to die in order for me to learn some of these lessons. And I do know that. And as much as that hurts to say it, and as much as it hurts to know that, and as much as I probably would trade it all to have one more day with him, it's the truth,
Mm.
which is crazy.
It is crazy, but the your title of being a quantum coach, for example, and wealth energetics, speaks to you as a spiritual person that believes in metaphysical energy. So perhaps for people who are listening who may not understand that world, or what you think about your human existence, and what you're saying, like my dad had to die in order to learn these things.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps you could speak more to that.
Yeah, okay, whether you believe in God, universe, source, doesn't really matter. I think it's all connected. And just to preface that, like, I am not saying that, like, I'm not saying I believe that they are all the same thing. Like, I really do believe that. And so I think that energy, and this is science, right? This isn't even metaphysical. This is just scientific. Energy, as we know it, it can't die. It can't disappear. Energy cannot disappear. It can only transmute. It can only move, right, from one thing to the next, one host to another. And so an atom is 99.999999999% energy. It's 99.9999999% empty space, and that empty space is energy. And like they say that if you were to take the entire human existence and put it into, take out all the energy space and just keep the like matter, the entire human existence on the scale of like a football field would fit into a sugar cube. One single sugar cube, which is insane to think about it. And so, you learn about these things, and like that, if that's true, which it is, that's science. We as human beings, just like this water, just like this necklace, just like this hat, like we are all 99.9999999% energy. And we only use a fraction of that. And so when we die, this energy has to move, right? It has to go somewhere. And so I don't believe that it like just disappears into thin air. I believe that that energy that you feel and that energy that a person possesses can carry on. And so, when I say like wealth energetics and like what I coach on, is like, this is like where the law of attraction comes in. If you've never, if you've heard of the law of attraction, but you're not familiar with it, the law of attraction, there's 13 universal laws that we don't ever talk about, but they're as real as gravity. Like Newton's third law of physics literally says, like, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. That's a scientific theory. That's like Newton's law of physics. That is the exact same thing as the law of mirrors and the law of rhythm. It's literally like everything has an equal and opposite. Just like the law of attraction is like whatever our energetic frequency is, that is what we are going to attract, like a magnet, energetic magnets, right? It is what we are going to attract more of. So if I am in a place of true grief, conscious grief, as you would say, and I'm paying attention to it, and I'm diving deep into my shadow, and I'm getting to know like parts of myself. We have 3 brains. Humans have 3 brains, like 3 parts of our brain. It's like the reptilian brain, which is like connected to like your pineal gland and like your life force energy. Then you have like a mammalian brain, which is like how your body moves. And then we have our thinking brain, which is our ego, right? So if I am in my grief and I am consciously moving through that, I'm getting to know my shadow. I'm getting to know my frequency and like where I've been operating from. So I can really like, that is what I attract. And ultimately, I think as humans, we come here with a contract, a soul contract. Soul is energy, right? We come here with a contract, and that is a purpose that we are meant to fulfill on this earth. My dad, whoever you lost, if you're listening to this, they came here to fulfill a contract. And I have to believe that my dad fulfilled his. Because if they didn't, it's going to come back around. They're going to have to relearn lessons. Like it's going to come back around when they're going to have to learn those lessons at some point. So I have to believe that my dad fulfilled his karmic soul contract, just like I'm fulfilling mine. And part of mine was that like I had to learn what absolute grief felt like, because that was the only way I was going to learn that my money story was very much conditional upon whether my dad was around. Like I actually, through all the work that I did and all of this like shadow work and, working with coaches and doing breath work and doing Reiki and all these things, what I realized was I was holding myself back from being truly successful. And I always had this pattern where I'd make a lot of money, I'd spend a lot of money, I'd be broke, I'd need help. Make a lot of money, I'd spend a lot of money, I'd be broke, I'd need help. That was like my thing. And what I realized was I actually really believed that if I couldn't be fully successful, because if I was, then I wouldn't need my dad anymore. And if I didn't need my dad anymore, he would die. Because he would always say things to me growing up like, honey, I'll be around as long as you need me. He was type 1 diabetic. He had heart issues, liver, kidney. Like he was just not a healthy human, especially in the later years. And so, but whenever we'd have like a hospital scare or like a diabetic thing, he'd be like, honey, I'll be around as long as you need me. So what my subconscious, my ego brain believed on an energetic level was you can't become successful because if you do, your dad's going to die. He had to die in order for me to really learn that lesson and grow beyond it. I would have never learned that. And I know that now. And it's just been a really interesting thing because I feel like I've become closer to my dad in some ways now that he's not here, like from an energetic, like he's everywhere. I feel him everywhere. I hear, I mean, it's the same reason like signs, right? We get signs from beyond. Those signs, that's energy. That's an energetic response. That's an attraction of energy to you from people who aren't here anymore. That's the only way I mean, it's not fake, it's like there's no explanation for like why you're driving in the car and all of a sudden the song that you guys listen to just randomly comes on and it's not a song that's normally on that station. There's no way to explain, like my dad called my son Tiger Paws. And we had no idea when we moved from California to Texas where Owen would be going to school. And it just so happens that the school he goes to and the entire district, their mascot are the tigers. Like, there's no way to explain that other than energetic match.
Amazing. And I love that you shared with me about the teddy that you got for your son. It's so sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, it has like it's from Build-A-Bear. You go and we got him a bear and I had a video of my dad singing to Owen on his birthday a few years ago and I have it on my phone still. So you can actually like play it and they'll record it onto a little voice box and they just like put it in the paw. So every time Owen squeezes Papa Bear's hand, he says, I love you, Owen. You're the #1 grandson or something like that. And it's like very, very cute.
I love that.
But it's been amazing for Owen because Owen, I mean, our kids are so connected to the spiritual world. They just came from there. They're the most connected. Like when your kids say like, oh, I saw something in my room, or like when you hear them talking to someone, they're probably really talking to someone. Like Owen has conversations with my dad all the time. He sees him everywhere. They are around each other constantly. And so and they were really close. And so when my dad died, like Owen sees Papa everywhere. It's crazy. And so having the bear is like a really cool way. It's kind of obnoxious for us as parents because his dad and I are not together anymore. And that bear has to go with him to both houses. And if you forget it, all hell breaks loose.
That's so sweet. Yeah. What other ways are you like sort of honoring your dad within your family?
Oh my gosh, in so many ways. Everybody that's like so many like we just moved into this new house and, from the moment we moved in, I met with a medium who was able to share a medium. Like that was the first time I'd met with a medium since my dad died. And my dad showed up immediately, he came in and, there's been a lot of like, she shared with us that our house is really protected and like taken care of. Because my fiance lost her grandparents who she was really close with. So we have a lot of protection on this home. But like a lot of the contractors that have come to work on the house or like painters or delivery people, their names have been Danielle. And so we always like take a moment to like really like, whenever we meet a Danielle or whenever we hear something about like a Dan, like we always take a minute to like really honor that and like thank him. We have pictures of him all over the house. we tend to like once a week like kind of go around and like say our favorite memories so that Owen can like really participate in it. And then I think one cool thing that I'm doing is my dad had a Shelby GT 500 Mustang, and it's technically my car now, I guess, which is again so weird. But I'm getting it tattooed on my thigh. It's like part of like what I'm doing for my dad. Yeah, it's gonna be cool. And then we are getting married on March 23rd in our backyard, and we have a giant live oak tree in the backyard. And I've asked my stepmom to bring some of his ashes to the wedding, and we're going to plant them under the tree in the backyard. But then during the wedding, we're actually hanging a sign on the tree that says the family tree, and we're putting pictures of my dad and her grandparents all over it so that they can like be there with us. But yeah, I mean, we honor him. We honor him all the time. I feel like we talk about him at least once a day. And it's not even like in a Papa's dead kind of way. It's more of like it's like as if he's still here. We talk about his energy and the love that he had and all the things, and I'd trade all of it to hug him again. But it is nice to feel at peace, I think.
Mhm.
Actually allowing myself to like feel when it hurts, to actually like feel that, and to I really do believe that everything is happening for us. As much as it's hard to believe that sometimes, especially when things are really bad, I really do believe that everything is happening for us. And it's been a really beautiful reminder every time I do get really upset, like planning the wedding, moving into the house. Like these are big milestone things that like if I let myself, if I let my ego do, I could have gotten really, really frustrated, really resentful, really angry. And it was a very conscious choice on my part to like breathe through those moments and just say like, no, this is for me. Like this is teaching me a lesson. This is teaching me something, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful that, I we if we're here and we get to float around on this giant ball floating through space. We didn't come here to just experience the good times. We didn't come here just to experience the euphoria of life and the ups. We came here to experience being human. And being human means that you're going to experience, you have to allow yourself to experience like the most unimaginable loss and pain. And that's part of it. And so I've really found a place in my journey where I'm grateful when as much as it hurts, I am grateful that how great, how beautiful that I got to be a human, and I get to have these experiences.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so wise, because I mean, I guess my experience was that I went into a lot of numbness for many years,
Yeah.
which was a coping strategy. And when I really started to grieve consciously, I was, like you were saying, really a feeling being. So it's like the trouble with being numb is that you don't experience the joy and the euphoria. I was
That's
just
such a good point. You don't get to choose. Yeah, you don't when you choose numbness, because that's a choice. Being numb is a choice. And when you choose numbness, you don't get to like pick and choose what you're numb to. You just are numb to everything. And that was me, I think, for the first year. Like it was just numb. And I think still like, I mean, I would still argue that this is very much something I'm still working on. And I don't know if you're still in this space as well, but I still feel like I I haven't figured out. I feel joy. Don't get me wrong. I feel joy. I feel the sun. It's warm. Like I do feel those things, but I never feel like I hit maximum joy. Like I don't know how to feel just un unclouded pure joy yet.
Mhm.
I'm working on it. I'm consciously working on it. And I've been happy. And of course, like, there's been so many times where it has been like, it's felt like joy. And there's a little piece where it's like, oh, but I just wish dad was here. And
Mm.
so that's like my current space. But it's a lot better than being numb.
It is a lot better than being numb. And I have to, sort of reiterate that to people who are in so much pain, because it's like just confirming that, yeah, you are a feeling being, and it's uncomfortable because we like to, we have so many distractions around us. We have so much ability to check out on all kinds of things. And just being with the discomfort and knowing that it won't last forever and it will change. And, that it is also okay to experience laughter and joy at the same time as really feeling the pain of missing somebody.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's been a huge lesson is like, I mean, I remember we were the first time it happened was actually the day he died. Like they came to take his body, the coroner came to take his body. And I've never seen my stepmom like she didn't actually I was a mess when I was there when he took his last breath and I lost it in that moment. She didn't. She actually stayed very calm, cool, and collected. It wasn't until they came to she was very attached to the physical body. I wasn't. Like it was the breath that left his body. As soon as he like passed, I saw his soul leave and I was like, that's not my dad anymore. Like, I don't need to be in this room. I don't need anything to do with this body. Like, I was not attached to the body at all. When they came to take the body, my stepmom, like, I've never seen a woman, like, it was a guttural, like, it was, like, it was so deep and so heavy. And it was just this scream. And I'll never forget it. And then, like, 10 minutes later, when they put him in the thing, there's like four other body bags in there. Like, and my dad always used to like crack these like horrible jokes. And like one of them was like, if he was like in an elevator or like with a lot of people, he would be like, well, I bet you're all wondering why I called you here today. And like, so they put him in this corner thing and there's like four other bodies. And I like lean over to my stepmom and I'm like, how much do you want to bet he is sitting there right now being like, well, bet you're all wondering why I called you here today. And like the tears and the laughter, like it was tears, it was grief, it was laughter, like it was all of the human emotions at one time. And it was just, it was like it was the hardest I've ever laughed.
Mm-hmm. I
And
think
it was
it's
a,
a really good point. Like humor is, oh my gosh, can help us get through all these difficult, uncomfortable, horrendous.
yeah. It's interesting because, Tara, somebody said to me when, like, I was having this conversation with somebody who was very much like grieving in a very different way than me and had chosen the path of like angry at everybody, hates the world, can't understand why it's happening to them, very victim, right? It's like very victim. And we've all been there. Like I've gone through waves of that as well. Like, why is this happening to me? And I've been able to arrive where I am after a lot of work. But they said to me, they said, well, it just seems it just seems like you're just, spirit, like bypassing it. Like you're just like ignoring your grief. And I said, you know what? Like, actually, on the contrary, I would actually argue that choosing numbness or victim mindset is actually spiritual bypassing because you are choosing to avoid the full spectrum of emotion that you came here to experience.
Mhm.
Actually, if you're willing to laugh, if you're willing to feel happy, if you're willing to cry the hardest you've ever cried, if you're willing to like feel it all, you're not bypassing anything.
Mhm. Yeah.
You're moving through it.
Yeah.
Sidebar, have you ever heard the thing that like people say that if you're like talking and your nose starts to itch, that there's like a spirit nearby? Have you ever
I've
heard that?
heard that, but yeah.
Like it's like it's I think it's big in like a lot of my Jewish friends have told me that it's like one of their beliefs that like if your nose itches, you have spirits nearby, and like my nose has been itching for the last like 2 minutes, and I'm like,
Oh.
but dad likes to be there. Like I was talking to a client one time and we were like talking like this and she just like goes ghost white all of a sudden, like ghost white. And I was like, are you okay? And then she starts crying and she goes, I'm so sorry, Danielle. She goes, this is like she's so Jewish, so spiritually connected and like so amazing. She's just this amazing woman. And she's like, I'm so sorry, Danielle. She's like, there is a man sitting next to you and he has this Hawaiian shirt on. And like, she doesn't know anything about my dad. And she's like, and he is just beaming with the most pride and the most joy and just looking at you with the most love. And I am like overcome with emotion right now. And I was like, okay. And I was like, my nose has been itching. She's like, he's here, like he's right next to you and I can see him. And like, it was like the most, it was so cool. I was like, well, that tracks. Like dad was always like, that's my daughter. And so it's like my nose was itching and I just thought that was,
Well, I was thinking, he must be guiding you and propelling you forwards in your life. And I know that he was a successful entrepreneur as well. And so
yeah, well, he wasn't actually an entrepreneur. He was a CFO. So he just like he was a finance guy. I mean, he was a CFO of Disney at one point. He just was a very successful like businessman. Um, so yeah, I do believe that. I do believe that a lot of, even over the last year, like moving it, like building this house and during like a recession and like all these uncertainty things, like I never felt uncertain. I was calm about it the whole time. And even like building my coaching business, I was very like calm. I've been very calm and everybody's always like, I don't know how you're so calm about this. And I think it is just like this knowing that like, we pray to our angels, we pray for protection. Like I have the best angel now.
mm,
And it's like having my son's school be like the Tigers, like that. We worry about our kids here in America, in our schools and like, with like shootings and stuff, like it's always a thought in the back of your head. And I honestly have not, it hasn't been a thought at all since he started at that school because I'm like, they're the Tigers. Like it, like how much clearer could it be that like Owen is so protected? Like we are all so protected. And this was a man who protected his family. He can do that now on an even bigger scale without being in pain and without being sick.
yeah, 100% he can.
Yeah.
um I know that you've said it in different ways throughout this conversation, but I always like to ask people at the end of this interview what your interpretation of conscious grief would be.
I think it's feeling. I think it's being willing to feel everything, every single emotion. I think it's choosing to feel instead of choosing numbness. I think that is truly what it means to be very conscious in your grief.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree, Danielle. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we end?
I don't know, like everybody, I'm sure everybody who's listening is just like, or watching this is just so in such different places of your journey. And I know that like hearing somebody like me talk about death in this way can be really triggering to people who are not at that point of their journey yet. And what I can say about it, and like I know this may not land in the moment, but trust me, or at least trust yourself, that if you give yourself permission to just go through this and like trust that nothing that happens to you isn't for you and what is meant for you cannot miss. Like if you really believe that, you're going to get there, and it's not going to take away it's not going to take the place of pain. Nothing you do is going to bring that person back, and that's something we all have to like learn to live with. And life can be beautiful again.
Yeah. And actually, while you were talking, because I was thinking about your work with human design, and yeah, so I haven't done human design. It's been like on my list of something that I really want to do. And I wonder in that whether how we deal with grief, that interpretation of our human design will probably maybe bring up stuff about whether you're someone that lets go easily, deals with changes, things like
Yeah,
that.
for sure. I mean, and the biggest thing that it can inform you is like how your intuition works. And so, as you go through grief, it is a very intuitive process and you do have to like really start to listen to your intuition. But, we live in a world that says follow your gut, and not everybody's intuition lies in their gut. And so, really learning your human design and understanding like where you make decisions from and like where your authority lies can be huge, because then when you are experiencing these like heightened emotions one way or on either end of the spectrum, once you know your human design, you can really make sense of them in a more conscious way so that you can like actually move through them instead of getting so overwhelmed and burnt out that you like deal with nothing. And so yeah, I think human design was a huge catalyst. And actually, for your participants in this, we're going to offer a discount for human design readings. So I'll send you the link for that and everything, and they can you'll just be a link with a discount code, and you can book a reading with me, and we'll go through your whole chart and do all the things. So I
Yeah.
think it's super powerful. I think everybody should learn about their human design for like so many reasons, but grief is a really big reason to learn about your human design.
Yeah. Awesome. Like you say, we'll have that link underneath this interview. So thank you so much, Danielle. It's been so
No,
much to be with
you're
you.
Yeah, I mean, you're amazing. The fact that I mean, same, like you are being so protected and so guided by your angels, like doing this series, like what a gift you're giving to people. What a gift.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who's been listening and watching.
Yeah.
Great day. Bye, everyone.
Bye.